face. It's the truth. Right. Oh, she hurt his feelings. Speaking of relationship, what did you do to Pico a few weeks ago? Oh, him. Well, you know, the Shadow Realm from Yu-Gi-Oh! Yes, Yu-Gi-Oh! I was still trying to take in the terrifying scene before me when Dullahan emitted another cruel, shrieking cackle from his severed head. The din was so loud that I thought my head would explode as I dropped down to my knees and covered my ears with my hands. The hideous laughter continued unabated, but I fought through it, getting back up on my feet and raised my head to meet my assailant's eyes. If I was going to die, I wanted to at least go with some dignity. I screamed my lungs out, trying in vain to be heard over his vile laughter. "Be gone, foul beast! Leave me be!" I cried.
What is this nonsense?
You're being attacked by the people's game.
What is this nonsense? What is this?
Someone needs to clip this moment, please. This is actually great. Yeah, you have infinite health, so it's not like it matters if you get hit.
At length, the time came when I ceased to recollect anything, when all was one awful, hideous, fantastic dream. At last, on Tuesday, the 8th of the month of July, after crawling on our hands and knees for many hours, more dead than alive, we reached the point of junction. Oh, what the fuck? Why is it red? What? What's happening? Oh, I don't like that noise. Okay, everyone. We're all done reading each other's poems, right? And if you are comfortable creating titles for your stories, you could just go ahead and name them. That's what I do sometimes for some of my stories. I actually have like an outline with different titles that I actually want that for that particular chapter and stuff, with like, you know, notes and stuff. And then if I ever feel the story's going in different directions, I would probably just end up changing the title. But like, if you just want to put like chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 1. I walked in the direction of the sound that appeared to be coming from the south of the island. Noting how they became more intense the closer I got. Before long, I could hear the agonizing screams of men in extreme pain. I wondered what horrifying scene awaited me. But I knew I had to press on. I'm just here to see you kick ass and not die. Oh, that's the wrong thing to say to him. What's with that face? It's the truth. Right. Oh, she hurt his feelings. Speaking of relationship, what did you do to Pico a few weeks ago? Oh, him. Well, you know, the Shadow Realm from Yu-Gi-Oh! Yes, Yu-Gi-Oh! I was still trying to take in the terrifying scene before me when Dullahan emitted another cruel, shrieking cackle from his severed head. The din was so loud that I thought my head would explode as I dropped down to my knees and covered my ears with my hands. The hideous laughter continued unabated, but I fought through it, getting back up on my feet and raised my head to meet my assailant's eyes. If I was going to die, I wanted to at least go with some dignity. I screamed my lungs out, trying in vain to be heard over his vile laughter. "Be gone, foul beast! Leave me be!" I cried.
What is this nonsense?
You're being attacked by the people's game.
What is this nonsense? What is this?
Someone needs to clip this moment, please. This is actually great. Yeah, you have infinite health, so it's not like it matters if you get hit.
At birth, the time came when I ceased to recollect anything. When all was one awful, hideous, fantastic dream. At last, on Tuesday, the 8th of the month of July, after crawling on our hands and knees for many hours, more dead than alive, we reached the point of junction. Oh, what the fuck? Why is it red? What? What's happening? Oh, I don't like that noise. Okay, everyone. We're all done reading each other's poems, right? If you are comfortable creating titles for your stories, you could just go ahead and name them. That's what I do sometimes for some of my stories. I actually have like an outline with different titles that I actually want that for that particular chapter and stuff, with like notes and stuff. And then if I ever feel the story's going in different directions, I would probably just end up changing the title. But like, if you just want to put like chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 1. I walked in the direction of the sound that appeared to be coming from the south of the island. Noting how they became more intense the closer I got. Before long, I could hear the agonizing screams of men in extreme pain. I wondered what horrifying scene awaited me. But I knew I had to press on. I'm just here to see you kick ass and not die. Oh, that's the wrong thing to say to him. What's with that face? It's the truth. Right. Oh, she hurt his feelings. Speaking of relationship, what did you do to Pico a few weeks ago? Oh, him. Well, the Shadow Realm from Yu-Gi-Oh! Yes, Yu-Gi-Oh! I was still trying to take in the terrifying scene before me when Dullahan emitted another cruel, shrieking cackle from his severed head. The din was so loud that I thought my head would explode as I dropped down to my knees and covered my ears with my hands. The hideous laughter continued unabated, but I fought through it, getting back up on my feet and raised my head to meet my assailant's eyes. If I was going to die, I wanted to at least go with some dignity. I screamed my lungs out, trying in vain to be heard over his vile laughter. "Be gone, foul beast! Leave me be!" I cried.
What is this nonsense?
You're being attacked by the piece of game.
What is this nonsense? What is this?
Someone needs to clip this moment, please. This is actually great. Yeah, you have infinite health, so it's not like it matters if you get hit.
At birth, the time came when I ceased to recollect anything. When all was one awful, hideous, fantastic dream. At last, on Tuesday, the 8th of the month of July, after crawling on our hands and knees for many hours, more dead than alive, we reached the point of junction. Oh, what the fuck? Why is it red? What? What's happening? Oh, I don't like that noise. Okay, everyone. We're all done reading each other's poems, right? Alright. Welcome in, everyone. Today, we'll be continuing some writing sprints. And then, maybe about 2 hours from now, we'll continue maybe 3 more chapters of Journey to the Center of the Earth. So, let me just pull up my document here. Let me see where I left off. Okay, so I left off on chapter 2, 3rd section. Okay. So I am going to start the timer, so. This is going to be for 30 minutes. Why is it keeping slanted? Oh, what? You can't hear me? No, the model tends to move. I don't know. I don't know what it's picking up that it keeps speaking on its own. I really don't know. Yeah, that's just the model. I think it's just picking up whatever my mic is picking up. I don't know. Anyway, Rose, Vector, hi, how are you? I'm doing good. I actually just got back from dropping off my friend. Oof, cold. Well, on the plus side, I finally got the magic mirror to work for my 3D model. Although she does move every time it picks up a sound. It's probably picking up my keyboard though, or wherever background sound that's coming from the house. I think I should probably lower the sensitivity on this thing. Let's see. Oh, that's why it's under the wrong mic. Here, let's try this one. Okay, I think this worked. It was using my headset mic instead of the actual mic. Ooh, 5 hours? I didn't realize you were on for that long. And I know nothing about was it Splatoon? I know nothing about that game. Sadly. But I am assuming it was fun. How are you? Let's see. Yeah, it has been hot like lately, so. Humid, hot, same thing. Oh no. So you can't win, essentially. Bruh. My SO commands are not working. Stream Deck, why do you betray me? There we go. I have to do it manually, apparently. Yes. Stream Deck. It's being bad today. I might have to redo it. Although, I don't know why it's not putting stuff in chat. Does the visions begin to disappear? No, we're gonna keep it like that. Disappear. I want disappear. I don't want a W. And there. G. Oh, 20. with their names. Let me go back. Okay, I, there we go. Dark shields. Wait, why does Streamlabs blink? What? Okay, I think everything looks fine. Anyway. God damn it, Blanket. Another RR? Why? Okay. Just give me a minute. Let me finish this sentence. No, actually, I'm writing my novel. If it was fan fiction, you would be seeing it on the screen. Well, maybe. I kind of like putting the timer on the screen, actually. No, I go back and forth. I just felt like continuing the chapter of my story, that's all. Okay, I think that's a good sentence to stop for the break. So let me go here. We're gonna put in break. We're gonna make this 5 minutes each. And we're gonna check this off. Oh, that's good. Now, I am not sure if Blanket is still here, but let me move the mic a little closer without pinching myself. I know. If he's not here, I'm gonna be so upset. In an annoying way? What? Not really. And if you make them mad enough, they could totally do that. It just depends on the type of context. Let's I think this is close enough because I have the mic above me, so. Oh. Okay. Let me just drink some water first. Okay, Blanket, I don't know you're still here, but, Ada. That's all you're getting, okay? Now I'm moving my mic back up, because I don't like it this close to me. Wish I had a better way for this. Okay, that should be good. What? No. Of course not. You have to check the store to see what's actually there. Let's see here. Okay, there you go. Okay. Okay, so we're gonna do another 30 minutes. Where is her name? I know I have it here somewhere. There we go. Rose, thank you so much for the huggy, and I'm glad you like it. Alright, Emperor, have a nice rest. so that's fixed. Yeah, and then we are... Oh, I'm feeling fine. I'm just deciding if I should end this chapter here and start the next one. The first chapter only has about 4,000 words, which is 17 pages, but that's because it's the beginning of the chapter. Chapter 2 is almost 2,000 words. No, yeah. Yeah, I think that's what I'll do. I'll end this chapter here and then we'll start the next one. Okay. So, okay, so let me check this off just so we did finish round 2. So, what we're gonna do is I'm gonna take a short break. I need to refill my my glass of water. And then we'll be right back. And we'll continue this. I'm just here to see you kick ass and not die. Oh, that's the wrong thing to say to him. What's with that face? It's the chill. Right. Oh, she hurt his feelings. Speaking of relationship, what did you do to Pico a few weeks ago? Oh, him. Well, you know, the Shadow Realm from Yu-Gi-Oh! Yes, Yu-Gi-Oh! I was still trying to take in the terrifying scene before me when Dullahan emitted another cruel, shrieking cackle from his severed head. The din was so loud that I thought my head would explode as I dropped down to my knees and covered my ears with my hands. The hideous laughter continued unabated, but I fought through it, getting back up on my feet and raised my head to meet my assailant's eyes. If I was going to die, I wanted to at least go with some dignity. I screamed my lungs out, trying in vain to be heard over his vile laughter. "Be gone, foul beast! Leave me be!" I cried.
What is this nonsense?
You're being attacked by the piece of game.
What is this nonsense? What is this?
Someone needs to clip this moment, please. This is actually great. Yeah, you have infinite health, so it's not like it matters if you get hit.
At length, the time came when I ceased to recollect anything, when all was one awful, hideous, fantastic dream. At last, on Tuesday, the 8th of the month of July, after crawling on our hands and knees for many hours, more dead than alive, we reached the point of junction. Oh, what the fuck? Why is it red? What? What's happening? Oh, I don't like that noise. Okay, everyone. We're all done reading each other's poems, right? And if you are comfortable creating titles for your stories, you could just go ahead and name them. That's what I do sometimes for some of my stories. I actually have like an outline with different titles that I actually want that for that particular chapter and stuff. with like, notes and stuff. And then if I ever feel the story's going in different directions, I would probably just end up changing the title. But like, if you just want to put like chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 1.
I walked in the direction of the sound that appeared to be coming from the south of the island. Noting how they became more intense the closer I got. Before long, I could hear the agonizing screams of men in extreme pain. I wondered what horrifying scene awaited me. But I knew I had to press on.
I'm just here to see you kick ass and not die. Oh, that's the wrong thing to say to him. What's with that face? It's the truth. Right. Oh, she hurt his feelings. Speaking of relationship, what did you do to Pico a few weeks ago? Oh, him. Well, the Shadow Realm from Yu-Gi-Oh! Yes, Yu-Gi-Oh!
I was still trying to take in the terrifying scene before me when Dulaha emitted another cruel, shrieking cackle from his severed head. The din was so loud that I thought my head would explode as I dropped down to my knees and covered my ears with my hands. The hideous laughter continued unabated, but I fought through it, getting back up on my feet and raised my head to meet my assailant's eyes. If I was going to die, I wanted to at least go with some dignity. I screamed my lungs out, trying in vain to be heard over his vile laughter. "Be gone, foul beast! Leave me be!" I cried.
What is this nonsense?
You're being attacked by the piece of game.
What is this nonsense? What is this?
Someone needs to clip this moment, please. This is actually great. Yeah, you have infinite health, so it's not like it matters if you get hit.
At birth, the time came when I ceased to recollect anything, when all was one awful, hideous, fantastic dream. At last, on Tuesday, the 8th of the month of July, after crawling on our hands and knees for many hours, more dead than alive, we reached the point of junction.
Oh, what the fuck? Why is it red? What? What's happening? Oh, I don't like that noise. Okay, everyone. We're all done reading each other's poems, right? If you are comfortable creating titles for your stories, you could just go ahead and name them. That's what I do sometimes for some of my stories. I actually have like an outline with different titles that I actually want that for that particular chapter and stuff, with like notes and stuff. And then if I ever feel the story's going in different directions, I would probably just end up changing the title. But like, if you just want to put like chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 1.
I walked in the direction of the sound that appeared to be coming from the south of the island. Noting how they became more intense the closer I got. Before long, I could hear the agonizing screams of men in extreme pain. I wondered what horrifying scene awaited me. But I knew I had to press on.
I'm just here to see you kick ass and not die. Oh, that's the wrong thing to say to him. What's with that face? It's the truth. Right. Oh, she hurt his feelings. Speaking of relationship, what did you do to Pico a few weeks ago? Oh, him. Well, the Shadow Realm from Yu-Gi-Oh! Yes, Yu-Gi-Oh!
I was still trying to take in the terrifying scene before me when Dullahan emitted another cruel, shrieking cackle from his severed head. The din was so loud that I thought my head would explode as I dropped down to my knees and covered my ears with my hands. The hideous laughter continued unabated, but I fought through it, getting back up on my feet and raised my head to meet my assailant's eyes. If I was going to die, I wanted to at least go with some dignity. I screamed my lungs out, trying in vain to be heard over his vile laughter. "Begone, foul beast! Leave me be!" I cried.
What is this nonsense?
You're being attacked by the piece of game.
What is this nonsense? What is this?
Someone needs to clip this moment, please. This is actually great. Yeah, you have infinite health, so it's not like it matters if you get hit.
At length, the time came when I ceased to recollect anything, when all was one awful, hideous, fantastic dream. At last, on Tuesday, the 8th of the month of July, after crawling on our hands and knees for many hours, more dead than alive, we reached the point of junction.
Oh, what the fuck? Why is it red? What? What's happening? Oh, I don't like that noise. Okay, everyone. We're all done reading each other's poems, right? Alright, and we're back. I decided to grab some food while I was at it. Thank you, Rose. Yeah. Let me just see here. Okay, so this is completed. And did I throw? Okay, yeah. So that should be everything. I'm not sure if you heard this shade of food before. It's Juicy Platter, so pretty much it's their mixed platter of like their rice. It's like I think it's a Jamaican rice or something like that, or Arab rice. With chicken and gyro. Then bro, let's go eat something. Oh yeah. We got some nice music. It's a nice rain and fire place thing. How about a burger and fries? Okay. So we're gonna do the last round of the writing. And then we're gonna switch over to maybe reading 3 more chapters of Journey to the Center of the Earth. So let me pull up this. Okay, so we got those 2 marked already. Okay. So here, we're gonna look up Egyptian name. Egyptian. Yeah, so pretty much I'm basing the story on. It's loosely based on Greek mythology with Basset and Sekhmet. By loosely, I mean very loosely. But I am using some Egyptian terms, so. Yeah, so I'm not really following Egyptian myth, but like I'm using some of the characters for my own story. And I might throw in some other mythologies in there. I just have to, you know, twist it in my own way. And that was the end of round 3. Okay, so let me just get a quick screenshot of this. Where are my screenshots? Where are you? Let's see here. Where did I have this under? Writing terminal. Okay. Okay. That's all updated. We're gonna switch over. Yeah, reading time. Let me just exit these tabs real quick. Okay, and we're just gonna make sure Twitch is on this side. Okay, that's good. Let me just go grab the book. Let me see here. Okay. I'm gonna go to my channel just so I can look at it. Okay. Okay. So this is chapter 31. Maybe I read 31. Yeah, 31. 3 X's and a 1, yeah. Okay. Chapter 31. Terrific Syrian comeback. Saturday, August 15th. The sea still retains its uniform monotony, the same leaden hue, the same eternal glare from above, no indication of land being in sight. The horizon appears to retreat before us more and more as we advance. my head still dull and heavy from the effects of my extraordinary dream, which I cannot as yet banish from my mind. The professor, who has not dreamed, is, however, in one of his morose and unaccountable humors, spent his time in scanning the horizon. At every point of the compass, his telescope is raised every moment to his eye, and when he finds nothing to give any clue to our whereabouts, he assumes a not lunatic attitude and walks anxiously. I remarked that my uncle, the professor, had a strong tendency to resume his old impatient character, and I could not but make a note of this disagreeable circumstance in my journal. I saw clearly that it had required all the influence of my danger and suffering to extract from him one scintillation of humane feelings. Now that I was quite recovered, his original nature had conquered and obtained the upper hand. And after all, what had he to be angry and annoyed about now more than at any other time? Was not the journey being accomplished under the most favorable circumstances? Was not the raft progressing with the most marvelous rapidity? What, then, could be the matter? After one or two preliminary hums, I determined to inquire. "You seem uneasy, uncle," said I, when for about the 100th time he put down his telescope and walked up and down, muttering to himself. "No, I am not uneasy," he replied in a dry, harsh tone. "By no means." "Perhaps I should have said impatient," I replied, softening the force of my remark. "Enough to make me so, I think. And yet we are advancing at a rate seldom attained by a raft," I remarked. "What matters that?" cried my uncle. "I am not vexed at the rate we go at, but I am annoyed to find the sea so much faster than I expected." I then recollected that the professor, before our departure, had estimated the length of the subterranean ocean as at most about 30 leagues. Now we had traveled at least over twice that distance, without discovering any trace of the distant shore. I began to understand my uncle's anger. "We are not going down?" suddenly exclaimed the professor. "We are not progressing with our great discoveries. All this is utter loss of time. After all, I did not come from home to undertake a party of pleasure. This voyage on a raft over a pond annoys and wearies me." He called this adventurous journey a party of pleasure, and this great inland sea a pond. "But," argued I, "if we have followed the route indicated by the great Sakhanism, we cannot be going far wrong." "That is the question, as the great immoral Shakespeare has it. Are we following the route indicated by that wondrous sage? Did Sakhanism ever fall in with the great sheet of water? If he did he cross it?" I began to fear that the rivulet we adopted for a guide has led us wrong. In any case, we can never regret having come this far. It is worth the whole journey to have enjoyed this magnificent spectacle. It is something to have seen. I care nothing about seeing, nor about magnificent spectacles. I came down into the interior of the earth with an object, and that object I mean to obtain. Don't talk to me about admiring scenery or any other sentimental trash. After this, I thought it well to hold my tongue and allow the professor to bite his lip until the blood came, without further remark. At 6 o'clock in the evening, our matter-of-fact guide, Hans, asked for this week's salary and receiving his Rick's dollars, put them carefully in his pocket. He was perfectly content and satisfied. Sunday, the 16th of August. Nothing new to record. The same weather as before. The wind has a slight tendency to freshen up, and with signs of an approaching gale. When I awoke, my first observation was in regard to the intensity of the light. I keep on fearing day after day that the extraordinary electric phenomena should become first observed and then go wholly out, leaving us in total darkness. Nothing, however, of the kind occurs. The shadow of the raft, its masts and sails, is clearly distinguished on the surface of the water. This wondrous sea is, after all, infinite in its extent. It must be quite as wide as the Mediterranean, or perhaps even as great Atlantic Ocean. Why, after all, should it not be so? My uncle has on more than one occasion tried deep sea sounding. He tried the cross on one of our heaviest crowbars to the extremity of a cord, which he allowed to run out to the extent of 200 fathoms. We had the greatest difficulty in hoisting in our novel kind of lead. When the crowbar was finally dragged on board, Hans called my attention to some singular marks upon its surface. The piece of iron looked as if it had been crushed between two very hard substances. I looked at our worthy guide with an inquiring glance. "Tender," said he. Of course, I was at a loss to understand. I turned round towards my uncle, absorbed in gloomy reflections, and I had little wish to disturb him from his reverie. I accordingly turned once more towards our worthy Icelander. Hans very quietly and significantly opened his mouth once or twice, as if in the act of biting, and in this way made me understand his meaning. "Teeth?" cried I, with a suffocation, as I exclaimed the bar of iron with more attention. Yes, there can be no doubt about the matter. The indications on the bar of iron are the marks of teeth. What jaws must the owner of such molars be possessed of? Have we then come upon a monster of unknown species, which still exists within the vast waste of waters? A monster more more ferocious than a shark, more terrible and bulky than the whale. I am unable to withdraw my eyes from the bar of iron, actually half crushed. Is then my dream about to come true? A dread and terrible reality. All day my thoughts were bent upon these speculations, and my imagination scarcely regained a degree of calmness and power of reflection upon after a sleep of many hours. This day, as on other Sundays, we observed as a day of rest and pious meditation. Monday, August 17th. I have been trying to realize from memory the particular instances of those antediluvian animals of the secondary period, which succeeding to the Mosissa, to Crassia, and to the fish, preceded the appearance of the race of mammals, the generation of reptiles, then reigned supreme upon earth. These hideous monsters ruled everything in the seas of the secondary period, which formed the strata of which the Jura Mountains are composed. Nature has endowed them with perfect organization. Their gigantic structure was theirs. What vast and prodigious strength they possessed. The existing Serenians, which included all such reptiles as lizards, crocodiles, and alligators. Even the largest and most formidable of their class are but feeble imitations of their mighty sires, the animals of ages long ago. If there were giants in the days old, if there were giants in the days of old, there were also gigantic animals. I shuddered as I evolved from my mind the idea and recollection of these awful monsters. No eye of man had seen them in the flesh. They took their walks aboard upon the face of the earth thousands of ages before man came into existence, and their fossil bones, discovered in the limestone, have allowed us to reconstruct them anatomically, and thus to get some faint idea of their colossal formation. I recollect once seeing in the Great Museum of Hamburg the skeleton of one of these wonderful sirens. It measures no less than 30 feet from the nose to the tail. Am I, then, an inhabitant of the earth of the present day, destined to find myself face to face with the representative of this antediluvian family? I can scarcely believe it possible, can hardly believe it true. And yet, these marks of powerful teeth upon the bar of iron, can there be a doubt from their shape that the bite is the bite of a crocodile? My eyes stared widely and with terror upon the subterranean sea. Every moment I expect one of these monsters to rise from its vast cavernous depths. I fancy that the worthy professor in some measure shares my notions, if not in my fears, for after an attentive examination of the crowbar, he cast his eyes rapidly over the mighty and mysterious ocean. Oh, oof, quiz. Good luck with that. What could possess him to leave
the land, I thought, as if the depths of this water was any importance to us. No doubt he has disturbed some terrible monster in his watery home, and perhaps we may pay dearly for our temerity. Anxious to be prepared for the worst, I examined our weapons and saw that they were in a fit state for use. My uncle looked at me and nodded his head appropriately. He too has noticed what we have to fear. Already, the uplifting of the waters on the surface indicates that something is in motion below. The danger approaches. It comes nearer and nearer. It behoves us to be on the watch. Tuesday, August 18th. Evening came at last, the hour when the desire for sleep caused our eyelids to be heavy. Night there is not, properly speaking, in this place any more than there is in summer in the Arctic regions. Hand, however, is immovable at the rudder. When he snatches a moment of rest, I really cannot say. I take advantage of his vigilance to take some little repose. But 2 hours after, I was awakened from a heavy sleep by an awful shock. The raft appeared to have struck upon a sunken rock. It was lifted right out of the water by some wondrous and mysterious power, and then started off 20 fathoms distance. What is it? Cried my uncle, staring up. Are we shipwrecked or what? Hand raised his hands and pointed to where about 200 yards a huge black mass was moving up and down. I looked with awe. My worst fears were realized. It is a colossal monster, I cried, clasping my hands. Yes, cried the agitated professor, and there yonder is a huge sea lizard of terrible size and shape. And farther on, behold, a prodigious crocodile. Look at his hideous jaws, and that row of monstrous teeth. Ha! He is gone. A whale! A whale! Shouted the professor. I can see her enormous fins. See? See how she blows air and water? 2 lizard columns rose to a vast height above the level of the sea, into which they fell with a terrific crash, waking up the echoes of that awful place. We stood still, surprised, stupefied, terror-stricken at the sight of this group of fearful marine monsters, more hideous in the reality than in my dreams. They were of supernatural dimensions. The very smallest of the whole party could with ease have crushed our raft and ourselves with a single bite. Hand seizing the rudder, which had flown out of his hand, puts it hard aweather in order to escape from such dangerous vicissitudes. But no sooner does he do so than he finds he is flying from Sakala to Charabas. To leeward is a turtle about 40 feet wide and a serpent quite as long, with an enormous and hideous head peering from out the waters. Look which way we will. It is impossible for us to fly. The fearful reptiles advanced upon us. They turned and twisted about the raft with awful rapidity.
They formed around our devoted vessel, a series of concentric circles. I took up my rifle in desperation, but what effect can a rifle ball produce upon the armored scales with which the bodies of these horrid monsters are covered? We remained still and dumb from utter horror. They advanced upon us, nearer and nearer. Our fate appeared certain, fearful, and terrible. On one side, the mighty crocodile, on the other, the great sea serpent. The rest of the fearful crowd of marine prodigies had flung beneath the briny waves and disappeared. I am about at all risks of fire and tried the effort of a shot. Hans, the guide, however, interfered by a sign to check me. The two hideous and ravenous monsters passed within 40 fathoms of the raft and then made a rush at one another, their fury and rage preventing them from seeing us. The combat commenced. We instinctively made out every action of the two hideous monsters, but to my excited imagination, the other animals appeared about to take part in the fierce and deadly struggle.
Welcome back, Rose. The monster, the whale, the lizard, and the turtle. I distinctly saw them every moment. I pointed them out to the Icelander, but he only shook his head. Tiva, he said. What? Two only does he say? Surely he is mistaken, I cried, in a tone of wonder. He is quite right, replied my uncle coolly and philosophically, examining the terrible duel with his telescope and speaking as if he were in a lecture room. How can that be? Yes, it is so. The first of these hideous monsters has the snout of a porpoise, the head of a lizard, the teeth of a crocodile, and it is this that has deceived us. It is the most fearful of all antediluvian reptiles, the world-renowned Ichthyosaurus, or great fish lizard. And the other? Fads, thank you so much for the follow. How are you today? Right now we are reading Journey to the Center of the Earth. The other is a monstrous serpent, concealed under the hard, bolted shell of the turtle, the terrible enemy of its fearful rival. The Phelosaurus, or sea crocodile. Hans was quite right. The two monsters only disturbed the surface of the sea. At last, have more eyes gaze upon two reptiles of the great primitive ocean. I see the flaming red eyes of the Ichthyosaurus, each as big or bigger than a man's head. Nature, in its infinite wisdom, had gifted the wondrous marine animal with an optical apparition. Apparatus of extreme power, capable of resisting the pressure of the heavy layers of water which rolled over him in the depths of the ocean where he usually fed. It has by some authors truly been called the whale of the Turanian race, for it is as big and quick in its motions as our king of the seas. This one measures not less than 100 feet in length, and I can form some idea of this girth, of his girth when I see him lift his prodigious tail out of the waters. His jaw is of awful size and strength, and according to the best informed naturalists, it does not contain less than 182 teeth. The other was the mighty Plesiosaurus, a serpent with a cylindrical trunk, with a short, stumpy tail, with fins like a bank of oars in a Roman gallery. Its whole body covered by a carapace or shell, and its neck, as flexible as that of a swan, rose more than 30 feet above the wave, a tower of animated flesh. These animals attacked one another with inconceivable fury. Such a combat was never seen before by mortal eyes, and to us who did see it, it appeared more like the phantasmagoric creation of a dream than anything else. They raised mountains of water, which dashed in spray over the raft, already tossed to and fro by the waves. 20 times we seemed on the point of being upset and hurled headlong into the waves. Hideous hisses appeared to shake the gloomy granite roof of the mighty cavern, hisses which carried terror to our hearts. The awful combatants held each other in a tight embrace. I could not make out one from the other. Still, the combat could not last forever, and woe unto us, whichsoever became the victor. 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours passed already, without any distinctive result. The struggle continued with the same deadly tendency, but without apparent result. The deadly opponents now approached, now drew away from the raft. Once or twice we fancied they were about to leave us altogether, but instead of that, they came nearer and nearer. We crouched on the raft, ready to fire at them at a moment's notice, poor as the prospect of hurling or terrifying them was. Still, we were determined not to perish without a struggle. Suddenly, the Ichthyosaurus and the Plesiosaurus disappeared beneath the waves, leaving behind them a maelstrom in the midst of the sea. We were very nearly drowned down by the indraught of the water. Several minutes elapsed before anything was again seen. Was this wonderful combat to end in the depths of the ocean? Was the last act of this terrible drama to take place without spectators? It was impossible for us to say. Suddenly, at no great distance from us, an enormous mass rises out of the waters. The head of the great Plesiosaurus, the terrible monster, is now wounded upon death. I can see nothing now of his enormous body. All that could be distinguished was his serpent-like neck
which he twisted and curled in all the agonies of death. Now he struck the waters with it, as if he had been a gigantic whip, and then again wriggled like a worm cut in two. The water was spurted up to a great distance in all directions. A great portion of it swept over our raft and nearly blinded us, but soon the end of the beast approached nearer and nearer. His movements slackened visibly. His contusions almost ceased, and at last the body of the mighty snake lay an inert dead mass on the surface of the now calm and placid waters. As for the Ichthyosaurus, has gone down to his mighty cavern under the sea to rest, or will he reappear to destroy us? This question remained unanswered, and we had breathing time. Okay, and that was the end of that chapter. Right. Yeah, that was a very interesting battle between dinosaurs.
Oh, and Pod, yes, we're doing well. Thank you for asking.
Well, this is certainly interesting. They messed up on the table of contents. I have 2 chapters here that say 31. I hope they mean 32. Unless the combat wasn't really 31. Let me put my book in order so I can figure out what chapter this really is. Okay, so the chapter before this is XX1X, which is 29. So, yeah. Okay, so actually the chapter we read was chapter 30. Oh, so they messed up on that. Okay. Okay, so what we just read is chapter 30, not chapter 31. So remember that. Okay, so now we're actually reading chapter 31. So, chapter 31, The Sea Monster. Wednesday, August 19th. Fortunately, the wind which at the present blows with great violence has allowed us to escape from the scene of the unparalleled and extraordinary struggle. Hans, with his usual and imperturbable calm, remained at the helm. My uncle, who for a short time had been withdrawn from this absorbing reverie by the novel incidents of this sea fight, fell back again apparently into a brown study. All this time, however, his eyes were fixed impatiently on the widespread ocean. Our voyage now became monotonous and uniform, dull as it has become. I have no desire to have it broken by any repetition of the perils and adventures of yesterday. Thursday, August 20th. The wind is now north-northeast and blows very irregularly. It has changed to fitful gusts. The temperature is exceedingly high. We are now progressing at the average rate of about 10 miles and a half per hour. About 12 o'clock, a distant sound as of thunder fell upon our ears. I make a note of the fact without even venturing a suggestion as to its cause. It was one continued roar, as of a sea falling over mighty rocks. Far off in the distance, said the professor dogmatically, there is some rock or some island against which the sea, lashed to fury by the wind, is breaking violently. Hans, without saying a word, clambered to the top of the mast, but could make out nothing. The ocean was level in every direction as far as the eye could reach. 3 hours passed away without any sign to indicate what might be before us. The sound began to assume that of a mighty cataract. I expressed my opinion on this point strongly to my uncle. He merely shook his head. I, however, am strongly impressed by conviction that I am not wrong. Are we advancing towards some mighty waterfall, which shall cast us into the abyss? Probably this mode of descending into the abyss may be agreeable to the professor because it would be something like the vertical descent he is so eager to make. I entertain a different opinion. Whatever be the truth, it is certain that not many leagues distant there must be some very extraordinary phenomenon. For as we advance, the war becomes something mighty and stupendous. It is in the water or in the air. I cast hasty glances aloft at the suspended vapors, and I seek to penetrate their mighty depths. But the vault above is tranquil. The clouds, which are now elevated to the very summit, appear utterly still and motionless, and completely lost in the irradiation of electric light. It is necessary, therefore, to seek for the cause of this phenomenon elsewhere. I examined the horizons, now perfectly calm, pure and free from all haze. Its aspect still remains unchanged, but if this awful noise proceeds from a cataract, if, so to speak in plain English, this vast interior ocean is precipitated into a lower basin, if these tremendous roars are produced by the noise of falling waters, the current would increase activity, and its increasing swiftness would give me some idea of the extent of the peril with which we are menaced. Menaced? I don't know, whatever. I consulted the current. It simply does not exist. There is no such thing. An empty bottle cast into the bottle lies to leeward without motion. About 4 o'clock, hands rises, clambered up the mast, and reaches the truck itself. From this elevated position, he looks are cast around. They take in a vast circumference of the ocean. At last, his eyes remain fixed. His face expressed no astonishment. His eyes slightly dilate. He has seen something at last, cried my uncle. I think so, I replied. Hans came down, stood beside us, and pointed with the right hand to the south. Dear Neri. There, replied my uncle, and seizing his telescope, he looked at it with great attention for about a minute, which to me appeared an age. I know not what to think or expect. Yes, yes, he cried in a tone of considerable surprise. There it is. What? I asked. A tremendous spurt of water rising out of the waves. Some other marine monster, I cried, already alarmed. Perhaps. Then let us steer more to the westward, for we know what we have to expect from ambivalent animals, was my eager reply. Go ahead, said my uncle. I turned towards Hans. Hans was at the tiller steering with his usual imperturbable calm. Nevertheless, from the distance which separated us from this creature, a distance which must be estimated at not less than a dozen leagues, and this spurting of water proceeded from the pranks of some antediluvian animal. His dimensions must be something preternatural. To fly is, therefore, the course to be suggested by ordinary prudence. But we have not come into that part of the world to be prudent. Such is my uncle's determination. We accordingly continue to advance. The nearer we come, the loftier is the spouting water. What monster can fill himself with such huge volume of water, and then unceasingly spout them out in such lofty jets? At 8 o'clock in the evening, reckoning as above ground, where there is day and night, we are not more than 2 leagues from the mighty beast. Its long, black, enormous, mountainous body lies on the top of the water like an island. But then, sailors have been said to have gone ashore on sleeping whales, mistaking them for island. Is it an illusion, or is it fear? Its length cannot be less than 1,000 fathoms. What, then, is this serious monster, of which no souvenir ever thought? It is quite motionless, and presents the appearance of sleep.
The sea seems unable to lift him upwards. It is rather the waves which break on his huge and gigantic frame. The water spouts rises to a height of 500 feet, breaks and sprays with a dull, sullen roar. We advance like senseless lunatics towards this mighty mass. I honestly confess that I was abjectly afraid. I declared that I would go no further. I threatened in my terror to cut the sheet of the sail. I attacked the professor with consideration and comedy, calling him foolhardily mad, I know not what. He made no answer. Suddenly, the imperturbable hands once more pointed his finger towards the menacing object. Homie, an island? Cried my uncle. An island? I cried, shrugging my shoulders at this poor attempt at deception. Of course it is, cried my uncle, bursting into a loud and joyous laugh. But the waterspouts. Glaciers, said Hanks. Yes, of course, a glacier, replied my uncle, still laughing. A glacier like those common in Iceland. Jets like this are the great wonders of the country. At first, I would not allow that I had been so grossly deceived. What could be more ridiculous than to have taken an island for a marine monster? But kick as one may, one must yield to evidence, and I was finally convinced of my error. It was nothing, after all, but a natural phenomenon. As we approached nearer and nearer, the dimensions of the liquid chef of water became truly grand and stupendous. The island had at a distance presented the appearance of an enormous whale, whose head rose high above the waters. The glacier, a word the Icelanders pronounce geysir, and which signifies fury, rose majestically from its summit. Dull denotions are heard every now and then, and the enormous jet, taken as it were with sudden fury, shakes its plume of vapors and bounds into the first layer of the clouds. It is alone. Neither spouts of vapors nor hot springs surrounded it, and the whole volcanic power of this region is concentrated in one sublime column. The rays of electric light mix with this dazzling chef, every drop as it falls, assuming the prismatic colors of the rainbow. Let us go on shore, said the professor after some minutes of silence. It is necessary, however, to take great precaution in order to avoid the weight of falling waters, which would cause the raft to founder in an instant. Hands, however, steer admirably and brings us to the other extremity of the island. I was the first to leap on the rock. My uncle followed, while the eater duck hunter remained still like a man above many childish sources of astonishment. We were now walking on the granite mix with silicious sandstone. The soil shivered under our feet like the sides of boilers in which overheated steam is forcibly confined. It is burning. We soon came in sight of the
little central basin from which rose the glacier. I plunged the thermometer into the water, which ran bubbling from the center, and it marked a heat of 163 degrees. This water, therefore, came from the same place where the heat was intense. This was singularly in contradiction with the theories of Professor Hardwigg. I could not help telling him my opinion on the subject. "Well," said he sharply, "and what does this prove against my doctrine?" "Nothing," replied I dryly, seeing that I was running my head against a foregone conclusion. Nevertheless, I am compelled to confess that until now we have been most remarkably fortunate, and that this voyage is being accomplished in most favorable conditions of temperature. But it appears evident, in fact, certain, that we shall sooner or later arrive at one of those regions where this central heat will reach its utmost limits. It will go far beyond all possible graduation of thermometers. Visions of the Hades of the ancients, believed to be in the center of the earth, floating through my imagination. We shall, however, see what we shall see. That is the professor's favorite phrase now. Having christened the volcanic island by the name of his nephew, the leader of the expedition turned away and gave the signal for embarkation. I stood still, however, for some minutes, gazing upon the magnificent glacier. I soon was able to perceive that the upward tendency of the water was irregular. Now it diminished in intensity, and then suddenly it regained new vigor, which I attributed to the variation of the pressure of the accumulated vapors in its reservoir. At last we took our departure, going carefully round the projecting and rather dangerous rocks of the southern side. Hans had taken advantage of this brief halt to repair the raft. But before it was required. Before we took our final departure from the island, however, I had some observations to calculate the distance we had gone over, and I put them down in my journal. Since we left Port Gretchen, we had traveled 270 leagues, more than 800 miles. On this great island sea, we were therefore 620 leagues from Iceland, and exactly under England. Okay, and that's the end of that chapter. Okay. Oh no, the professor deleted the quiz. RIP. And thank you so much for the streamer package, Rose. Thank you, thank you. Oh yeah. Hopefully you are able to figure out the right answers now. And we're doing the stretches. And let me just fix myself on my chair. So you got 3 questions wrong somewhere. If it's only 10 questions. Does it tell you like what questions you got wrong? Oh my god. Well, that sucks. Yeah. Trick questions. Very trick questions. Okay. So the next chapter is 32. The Battle of the Elements. Oh, thank you. Okay. Friday, August 21st. This morning, the magnificent geisha had wholly disappeared. The wind had freshened up, and we were fast leaving the neighborhood of Henry Island. Even the roaring sound of the mighty column was lost to the ear. The weather, if under the circumstances we may use such an expression, is about to change very suddenly. The atmosphere is being gradually loaded with vapors, which carry with them the electricity formed by the constant evaporation of the saline waters. The clouds are slowly but sensibly falling towards the sea and are assuming a dark olive texture. The electric rays can scarcely pierce through the opaque curtain, which has fallen like a drop scene for the Wanderers Theater. On the stage of which another and terrible drama is soon to be enacted. This time, it is no fight of animals. It is the fearful battle of the elements. I feel that I am very peculiarly influenced, as all creatures are on land when a deluge is about to take place. The cumuli, a perfectly olive kind of cloud, piled upon the south, presented a most awful and sinister appearance, with the pitiless aspect often seen before a storm. The air is extremely heavy. The sea is comparatively calm. In the distance, the clouds have assumed the appearance of enormous balls of cotton, or rather, pods, piled one above the other, in picturesque confusion. By degree, they appear to swell out, break, and gain in number. What they lose in grandeur, their heaviness, is so great that they are unable to lift themselves from the horizon. But under the influence of the upper current of air, But under the influence of the upper currents of air, they are gradually broken up, become much darker, and then present the appearance of one single layer of a formidable character. Now and then a lighter cloud, still lit up from above, rebounds upon this gray carpet and is lost in the opaque mass. Hello, Jay. How are you? Rose, what happened? Did you get more questions wrong? Or did they change the questions? Eh? An 8? Huh. Oh no. I'm doing good, Jay. Right now we are reading. What chapter is this again? 32. Let me just reread this paragraph. I don't know where I left off. Hold on. I was on this paragraph. Okay. In the distance, the clouds have assumed the appearance of enormous balls of cotton, or rather pods, piled one above the other in picturesque confusion. By degree they appear to swell out, break, and gain in number what they lost in gradually. Their heaviness is so great that they are unable to lift themselves from the horizon. But under the influence of the upper currents of air, they are gradually broken up, become much darker, and then present the appearance of one single layer of formidable character. Now and then a lighter cloud, still lit up from above, rebounds upon this great carpet and is lost in the optique mass. There can be no doubt that the entire atmosphere is saturated with electric fluid. I am myself wholly impregnated. My hairs literally stand on end, as if under the influence of a galvanic battery. If one of my companions ventured to touch me, I think he would receive rather a violent and unpleasant shock. About 10 o'clock in the morning, the symptoms of the storm became more thorough and decisive. The wind appeared to soften down as if to take breath for a renewed attack. The vast funeral pall above us looked like a huge bag, like the cave of Elois, in which the storm was collecting its forces for the attack. I tried all I could not to believe in the menacing signs of the sky, and yet I could not avoid saying, as it were involuntarily, I believe we are going to have bad weather. The professor made me no answer. He was in a horrible and a detestable humor to see the ocean stretching interminably before his eyes. On hearing my words, he simply shrugged his shoulders. We shall have a tremendous storm, I said again, pointing to the horizon. These clouds are falling lower and lower upon the sea, as if to crush it. A great silence prevailed. The wind wholly ceased. Nature assumed a dead calm and ceased to breathe upon the mast, where I noticed a short of a slight ignis fatuus. The sail hangs in loose, heavy folds. The raft is motionless in the midst of a dark, heavy storm, without undulation, without motion. It is as still as glass. But, as we are making no progress, what is the use of keeping up the sail, which may be the cause of our perdition, if the tempest should suddenly strike us without warning? Let us lower the sail, I said. It is only an act of common prudence. No, no, cried my uncle in an exasperated tone. 100 times no. Let the wind strike us and do its worst. Let the storm sweep us away where it will. Only let me see the glimmer of some coast, of some rocky cliffs, even if they dash our raft to 1,000 pieces. No, keep up the sail no matter what happens. These words were scarcely uttered when the southern horizon underwent a sudden and violent change. The long accumulated vapors were resolved into the water, and the air required to lift up the void produced became a wild and raging tempest. It came from the most distant corners of the mighty cavern. It raged from every point of the compass. It roared. It yelled. It shrieked with glee, as of demons let loose. The darkness increased, and became indeed darkness visible. The raft rose and fell with the storm, and bounded over the waves. My uncle was cast headlong under the deck. I, with great difficulty, dragged myself towards him. He was holding on with might and main to the end of a cable, and appeared to gaze with pleasure and delight at the spectacle of the unchanged elements. Hans never moved a muscle. His long hair, driven hither and thither by the tempest, and scattered wildly over his motionless face, gave him a most extraordinary appearance. For every single hair was illuminated by little sparkling sprigs. His countenance presents the extraordinary appearance of a antediluvian man, a true contemporary of the Negatherium. Still, the mast holds good against the storm. The sail spreads out and feels like a soap bubble about to burst. The raft rushes on at a pace impossible to estimate, but still less swiftly than the body of water displaced beneath it, the rapidity of which may be seen by the lines which fly right and left in the wake. The sail, I cried, making triumphant of my hands, and then endeavoring to lower it. Let it alone, said my uncle, most exasperated than ever. Ned J, said Hans, quickly shaking his head. Nevertheless, the rain formed a roaring cataract before this horizon of which we were in search, and to which we were rushing like madmen. But before the wilderness of waters reached us, the mighty veil of clouds was torn in twine. The sea began to foam wildly, and electricity produced by some vast and extraordinary chemical action In the upper layer of the cloud, it brought into play. To the fearful claps of thunder are added dazzling flashes of lightning, such as I had never seen. The flashes crossed one another, hurling from every side, while the thunder came pealing like an echo. The mass of vapor became incandescent. The hailstones which strike the metal of our boots and our weapons are actually luminous. The waves as they rise appear to be fire-eating monsters, beneath which seethes an intense fire. Their crests surmounted by combs of flame. My eyes are dazzled, blinded by the intensity of light. My ears are deafened by the awful roar of the elements. I am compelled to hold on to the mass, which bends like a reed beneath the violence of the storm, to which none ever before seen by mariners bore any resemblance. Here my traveling notes become very incomplete, loose and vague. I have only been able to make out one or two fugitive observations, dotted down in a mere mathematical way, but even their brevity, even their absurdity, shows the emotions which overcame me. Sunday, August 23rd. Where have we got to? In what region are we wandering? We are still carried forward with inconceivable rapidity. The night has been fearful, something not to be described. The storms show no signs of cessation. We exist in the midst of an uproar which has no name. The denotions as of artillery are incessant. Our ears literally bleed. We are unable to exchange a word or hear each other speak. The lightning never ceases to flash for a single instant. I can see the zigzags after a rapid dart strike the arched roof of this magnificent of mighty vaults. If it were to give way and fall upon us, other lightning plunge their forked streaks in every direction and take the form of globes of fire, which explode like bombshells over a beleaguered city. The general crash of war do not apparently increase. It has already gone far beyond what human ear can appreciate. If all the powder magazines in the world were to explode together, it would be impossible for us to hear worse noise. There is a constant emission of light from the storm clouds. The electric matter is incessantly released. Evidently, the gaseous principles of the air are out of order. Innumerable columns of water rush up like water sprouts and fall back upon the surface of the ocean in foam. Whither are we going? My uncle still lies at full length upon the raft without speaking, without taking any note of time. The heat increases. I look at the thermometer. To my surprise, it indicates the exact figure is here rubbed out in my manuscript. Monday, August 24th. This terrible storm will never end. Why should not this state of the atmosphere, so dense and murky, once modified, again remain definitive? We are utterly broken and harassed by fatigue. Hands remains just as usual. The raft runs to the southeast invariably. We have now already run 200 leagues from the newly discovered island. About 12 o'clock, the storm became worse than ever. We are obliged now to fasten every bit of cargo tightly on the deck of the raft, or everything would be swept away. We tie ourselves to the masts, each man lashing the other. The wave drives over us so that several times we are actually underwater. We had been under the painful necessity of abstaining from speech for 3 days and 3 nights. We open our mouths. We move our lips, but no sound came. Even when we placed our mouths to each other's ears, it was the same. The wind carried the voice away. My uncle once contrived to get his head close to mine after several almost vain endeavors. He peered to my nearly exhausted senses to articulate some word. I had a notion, more from intuition than anything else, that he said to me, "We are lost." I took out my notebook, from which, under the most desperate circumstances, I never parted. I wrote a few words as legibly as I could. Take in sail. With a deep sigh, he nodded his head and acquiesced. His head had scarcely time to fall back in the position from which he had momentarily raised it, and then a disc or ball of fire appeared on the very edge of the raft. Our doomed craft. The mast and sail are carried away bodily, and I see them swept away to a prodigious height like a kite. We were frozen, actually shivered with terror. The ball of fire, half white, half azure color, about the size of a 10-inch bombshell, moved along, turning with prodigious rapidly to leeward of the sky. It ran about here, there, and everywhere. It clambered up of the bulwarks of the raft. It leaped upon the sack of provisions, and then finally descended lightly, fell like a football, and landed on our powdered barrel. Horrible situation. An explosion, of course, was now inevitable. By heaven's mercy, it is not so. The dazzling disc moved on one side. It approached his hands. He looked at it with a singular fixity. Then it approached my uncle. He cast himself on his knees to avoid it. It came towards me as I stood pale and shuddering in the dazzling light and heat. It percolated around my feet, which I endeavored to withdraw. An odor of nitrous gas filled the whole air. It penetrated to the throat, to the lung. I felt ready to choke. Why is it that I cannot withdraw my feet? Are they riveted to the floor of the raft? No. The fall of the electric globe has turned all the iron on board into loaded stones. The instruments, the tools, the arms are clanged together with awful and horrible noise. The nails of my heavy boots adhere closely to the plate of iron, incrustated to the wood. I cannot withdraw my foot. It is the old story over again of the mountain of Avment. At last, by a violent, almost superhuman effort, I tear it away just as the ball, which is still executing its gyratory motions, is about to run around it and drag me with it. Oh, what intense, stupendous light! The globe of fire bursts. We are enveloped in cascades of living fire, which flood the space around with luminous matter. Then all went out, and darkness once more fell upon the deep. I had just time to see my uncle once more cast apparently senseless on the floor of the raft, hands at the helm, spitting fire, under the influence of the electricity which seems to have gone through him. "Whither are we going?" I ask, and echo answers, "Whither?" Tuesday, August 25th. I have just come out of a long fainting fit. The awful and hideous storm still continues. The lightning has increased in vividness and pours out its fiery wrath like a brood of serpents let loose in the atmosphere. Are we still upon the sea? Yes, and being carried along with incredible velocity. We have passed under England, under the Channel, under France, probably under the whole extent of Europe. Another awful clamor in the distance. This time it is certain that the sea is breaking upon the rocks at no great distance. Then.
And that was the end of the chapter. And I believe that is where we're going to stop for today. Okay, so we are going to be streaming again. Well, technically it is Sunday for me. So tomorrow / later today, maybe 5 p.m., I will either do another reading writing stream. I kind of want to continue what I was writing. Plus, Copper should be giving me her portion of the story, so I would need to work on that as well. If not, we might continue Digimon Survive, so it really depends on what she gives me. We'll determine what we'll be doing tomorrow / today-ish. So, let me see who is on. Okay, so here are our choices. We have Prez. He is doing Monster Hunter Rise. We have Jay doing, it looks like a karaoke party stream. And we have my girl Katana doing another horror reaction. So, who do you guys want to see?
Alright, so we'll be rating my girly. So it's Anna Marie Arthur. Alright, thank you everyone who came to the stream today. I appreciate every one of you. And I will see you all later today. Alright? And I'll see you then. Bye bye. I'm just here to see you kick ass and not die. Oh, that's the wrong thing to say to him. What's with that face? It's the truth. Right. Oh, she hurt his feelings. Speaking of relationship, what did you do to Pico a few weeks ago? Oh, him. Well, you know, the Shadow Realm from Yu-Gi-Oh! Yes, Yu-Gi-Oh!
I was still trying to take in the terrifying scene before me when Dullahan emitted another cruel, shrieking cackle from his severed head. The din was so loud that I thought my head would explode as I dropped down to my knees and covered my ears with my hands. The hideous laughter continued unabated, but I fought through it, getting back up on my feet and raised my head to meet my assailant's eyes. If I was going to die, I wanted to at least go with some dignity. I screamed my lungs out, trying in vain to be heard over his vile laughter. "Be gone, foul beast! Leave me be!" I cried.
What is this nonsense?
You're being attacked by the people's game.
What is this nonsense? What is this?
Someone needs to clip this moment, please. This is actually great. Yeah, you have infinite health, so it's not like it matters if you get hit.
At length, the time came when I ceased to recollect anything, when all was one awful, hideous, fantastic dream. At last,